Welcome to a very special episode of the After podcast. My name is Vardhan, and today we have my professor Arkamitra with us, and he's going to talk a lot about grad school, right? So a lot of us are moving from undergrad to grad, and he's going to talk about how can you best make use of your undergrad years to get the best grad schools. How do you write your SOPs? What do professors care about? How do you pick the best professors to as your guides and mentors? How do you pick the best colleges? How do you get your recommendation letters? What should they look like? Smaller details about finances and how can you get those and how can you get your assistantships. Just to give you a bit more context, out of the 6 semesters that I've been on college, I've taken a course under him in 5 of them. Apart from the first one, I've just taken a course with him every single semester. He's an amazing professor, amazing guy, and someone who I've learned a lot from. We've been able to publish 2 papers together and one is in review. We can also able to file a patent together. So he's been very, very helpful in guiding me through my research journey, and he's going to talk about a lot of the grad school things today. He's done his master's and PhD from West Virginia, so he has a lot of personal information there as well. And a lot of the students that work with him end up at universities like Princeton and other top colleges in the US, so he has a lot of information from them as well. So whatever you see here is very, very good and very dense information that you're going to get. A quick adding note, you'll see that this podcast is outdoors and indoors. So we had to record on 2 different days. What happened is on the first day when we recorded, we did the first part and then we took a small break, and then when we started recording the second half, the recording is somehow stopped at the 1 minute mark, right? And we couldn't do anything about it. So I could totally understand someone who's just been in the sun for an hour. It's very, very hot. It's in Hyderabad in the month of April, very hot. We're in the sun and we recorded for an hour after that. But he did not get mad. He's just like, okay, it happens. It's technology. We just record on some other day. So from that small angle, you can understand what kind of guide and professor he is. Very, very happy to have worked with him. Here's the podcast. So thank you so much, sir, for taking the time to talk to me and tell us all about so many things. And I mean, I've learned a lot from you and all of these smaller conversations that you give advice on, and you've already taught so many people and had guided them through so many things, put them in amazing institutions. So your guidance today will be, I think, very helpful for everyone involved. I think I have a bunch of questions that cover a lot of topics, like a wide variety of topics. Let's start. Yes. So I would like to start with like a basic difference between, let's say, an undergrad, because most of the people who will be listening to this are undergraduates, and I think they would want to know what is the difference between, like, let's say, undergrad and grad school academically, and also like personally, what is the difference there?
Since there are two parts to the question, I'll tackle them one by one. So, first of all, the transition from undergrad to grad school. In undergrad, specifically in the BITS system, students are quite privileged, I would say. The way the faculty members interact with the students, enable them to get the best out of themselves, nurture them, and to some extent, while it helps the students, but at the same time, there is a sense of complacency, if that is the right word to use. I have seen that in some students. Now, of course, there are exceptions, specifically like you and she, and maybe from your batch, to name a few, and from other departments as well, I've seen. But in general, I've seen a sense of maybe complacency is a bit harsh, but the students become entitled to some extent. They expect that there will be always extensions on deadlines. Faculty members will not be very strict on the grading policies. But when you go to grad school, specifically in the US, from my experience, things are quite difficult. So, one example I can give you, in West Virginia during my first semester, I had to figure out my own housing, accommodation, cooking. I didn't have a car, so I had to figure out the bus timings, get the student ID, go to payroll, and get myself enrolled for the graduate assistantship, all those things. And at the same time, take care of coursework. And the grading policy there was, if you get less than 70 out of 100 on a course, you fail the course. And you cannot go and challenge the instructor that you do here. Yeah. So that is one big jump. And the second thing is, if you are in a different country, there is always a sense of alienism. And while I'm talking about my experiences from 2008 to 2013, at that time, well, due to the Obama administration, things were much more lenient. But under the current administration, already students and Indians in general are feeling the difference. So people will have to be careful about their own surroundings, their own belongings, and figure out more things on their own and not expect as much uh, comfort as I would have, say, 15 years ago. So that is a big jump. And the other thing is management of time, because you will be in charge of all the personal side of things. That is the second part of your question. So, yes, your lifestyle in general, you have to make sure that you get to all classes on time. So, that is another thing in the US system specifically. If you are late for a class, they won't let you in. Whether it's 5 seconds late or 15 minutes late, doesn't matter. If you're late, you're late. Once the doors close, no letting you in. So you have to be careful about time management, and you don't expect extension on deadlines as you get here. That is another thing. Unless there is some kind of natural calamity or some institute event for which you are not able to submit an assignment, or if there is a genuine case of somebody having a family issue or a health emergency, those are different things. But that being said, the healthcare system in the US is not like the one in India, and I'm specifically addressing the US system because 95% of students who have worked with me have ended up in the US. While we always talk about other countries, but still US is the big ticket for everyone. So the healthcare system there is such that you have to get yourself registered with a university health plan, and that health plan doesn't cover all your basics at all times. So, for example, in 2009, I had a $47 bill, and the deductible was $50, so I had to pay $47 out of pocket. If the bill would have been $51, then we'll fine. It would have been fine. I would have had to pay only $1. So things are a bit tricky. You need time to figure those out. And as I said, time management, lifestyle management. I had a flatmate who used to go out clubbing and partying and used to stay out till 5 in the morning. Didn't help him at all. And the other aspect of life there is, if you get too involved in your own work and your own research, which I had the opportunity of doing. So sometimes some experiments ran overnight, so you have to be prepared to stay in the lab overnight. So those things are there. And my first assignment as a research assistant was to wake up at 5:30 and go to the field and tie rebars. As I've told you in class. And the weather in West Virginia is not helpful at all. So during October, November, the average temperature is negative 20s. Oh my god. So it was bad. But everyone was doing it and had to do it. So have to be prepared for challenges which you wouldn't have faced here. So bits can prepare you to some extent about the curricular structure, because some of the American curricular structure is followed here, but the things outside, the auxiliary things, is what you have to be more careful about.
Got it, sir. That's very helpful. I think the differences in culture actually
Yes, and also it matters which institute you are applying to. I think you have a question coming up regarding the selection of institute, so I'll just briefly say about it right now. Try to apply for a place where it's a college town community rather than a big city. So it was very helpful for me. Morgantown was a fully cosmopolitan college town setup. There were 70 Indians in the batch in which I joined, and I had a lot of Indian friends, American friends, and because of the cosmopolitan culture, there was hardly any culture shock when I went. And people were already accustomed with foreign students in their system. So that is one thing. The other thing is, as I said about the grading, so I gave you a scary picture that if you don't score 70 out of 100, you cannot pass a course. But it is also possible to get very good grades, and while getting a full 4 GPA is not as easy as some people point it out to be, but I know many people who have got it, including myself. So it wasn't that difficult as well. The only thing is to keep repeat, as I was repeating earlier as well. Only thing is to keep track of assignments, do everything on time, and have a good rapport with the professor. Specifically for broad question based assignments, everything depends on the discussion of the professor, and there is no concept of step marking as you get here. You either get full marks or zero on the mathematics based courses. And if you get into engineering, you will have core courses and electives, the same structure as you have here. So in those courses, the mathematics based ones, it's either zero or full marks. So you have to be very careful. And another thing that you have to be careful about is the presentation side of the assignments as well. So I think you have a question coming up on that as well. I'll elaborate more on that. So few soft skills other than the academic skills also have to be polished and refined.
Yes. So like that is one aspect. Okay, that is a difference. But how do you choose if you should do a grad school as well? Like, what is
It's a very good question. So that you will get to know by the time you are in your third year first sem. That is when I knew what I wanted to do. So I initially wanted to go into automobile engineering because, as you might have known, I'm into cars a lot. But at that time in India, there wasn't any college. I don't think there is still any college in India which provides a degree in automobile engineering. So the closest thing to that is either civil or mechanical engineering. And I knew that I wanted to get into higher research. And that being said, I did get a job from the campus placements. But at that time, and till now as well, civil engineering companies for fresh undergrads do not pay as much as the IT jobs, as you know. Yeah. So the salary structure till date in India is that there's a huge jump for specifically civil engineers if you go from undergrad to grad. So I knew that I wanted a master's degree, and I never thought about getting a PhD, but that came later when I got a job in the US, but recession hit. Then they were not hiring foreign nationals, so I had to get into PhD to maintain my visa status. That's a story for later, I guess. But to answer your question, by the time you finish your second year and you are in the middle of your third year first sem, you will get an inkling of whether you want to stick with academia or not. And if you want to get into higher studies, then at the end of third year first sem, you should be prepared with writing the exams. Whether it's GATE or GRE or TOEFL or IELTS or any other exam that you want. The summer vacation after third year second sem is when you should be ready with all the preparation for these exams, because your target exams take place during the period of August to September, during my fourth year first sem. So you need at least 1 year of mental preparation, including 3 to 6 months of proper preparation for the exams. Wow. So that is why you need this 1 year buffer. Your third year first sem, third year second sem. By the time you reach the summer vacation of third year second sem, should be ready with everything. And usually the GRE and TOEFL happen in September. That's the best way to do it, because you get the scores in 2 to 3 weeks for TOEFL, and you get the GRE scores on the spot. You get the writing scores after 2 weeks, the GRE writing scores and the analytical writing part, and then the top ranked universities open their admission portals. So by end of December, most of the seats are filled up.
okay?
So you have to be very careful. And it also helps if you send out informal emails to faculty members saying that you have written your GRE and TOEFL, you have your GRE score, you're waiting for your TOEFL, and go through their website, do a small survey about the profiles of the professors so that they know that you exist. That is very important. Okay. Let's say you and I apply to the same school with the same GRE score. You have sent an informal email and I have not. You stand a better chance of getting selected because you have shown the initiative to go through the university profile, the faculty profile, and you have some plan of what you want to do.
Got it. So like creation initiative actually counts for a lot.
So what you have done with Professor Kayan now, he knows that you are interested in higher studies, And while he is not in civil engineering, but he might know people there, and he can refer you to someone in your field. That is what happened with me as well. One of the professors knew that a professor from West Virginia was looking for grad students, so he referred me, and it helped that I reached out to him. I in fact reached out to the professor before writing the TOEFL. Oh, because the exams are expensive. Yeah, true. And I didn't know whether it's a guarantee that I'll get in. So he told me, you write the GRE, see your scores, and you apply. You can get a provisional admission without writing a TOEFL. I didn't know. If I hadn't reached out to the professor, I wouldn't have known. So I actually waited till the end of February to write my TOEFL because I was in 2 months whether to get into IIT based on my GATE score. I had a very good GATE score. I had ranked 111. So I would have got into IS Bangalore. But then there's always the question whether you stay in India or go abroad. And somehow the personal aspects played a role. So the professor was able to convince my mom, which is very important because I have had this scenario with your seniors. Their parents have asked me, is it safe to let our kids go and settle in the US? So I always say that settling down is a long term scenario, but at least the grad school experience is something that we should experience, and it's a privilege. Not everyone gets the opportunity. So if your kid gets the opportunity, let them go further, and there's always the chance of coming back and doing something. When I was coming back, people kept asking me question, why are you coming back? But I always wanted to come back. Yeah. Not like I wanted to settle down there. So this is another thing which I would tell you. You asked me about the personal aspect. The life in grad school in the US is perhaps the best 5 years of my life. But I wouldn't want to settle down in the US because of the healthcare system, as I told you, and the life in big cities that I have seen. The house rent, mortgage, keeping track of daily life. It's too hectic, and Indians are not built for that. It's an acquired skill. It takes a lot of time to get into that mentality, but the way we are closely associated with our families, our parents, the way we think about life, approach life, it's far different from what's going on there. So I knew that I won't be able to do it. I truly appreciate people who have been able to do it, but it was not for me. So you have the avenue of coming back if you want. If you get the chance, take the leap from undergrad to grad school. And the other thing is the financial aspect too. So if you are lucky enough or if you are competent enough, you don't have to pay a single money out of pocket. I spent 5.5 years, I didn't pay anything. And instead, I was making money, I was saving money. So that's another thing. If you have a properly balanced lifestyle, as I was saying earlier, you'll be able to save enough money to pay off any bank loans you might have had to take initially for the first 45 days. The universities do not pay any scholarship. Those areas you get later. So the appointment letter or the offer letter says that you need enough money in your bank account to sustain the first 45 days. So I was able to save enough money to pay off those loans. And I was able to save enough money to come back and explore opportunities in India while staying at home and not having to worry about financial aspect. That's another thing. So people who get a master's degree or even a PhD in the US, I would say that spend a couple more years extra in higher research, maybe as a research associate, as a postdoc, or in the industry, make enough money so that you can come back and be comfortable when you are here.
Super. So like, okay, fine. After we chose, okay, that now that we know that we want to go for grad school, what kind of grad school? Because I know there's like coursework based and then there's a project.
Yeah, so there are three possible categories of institutes in the US: R1, R2, and R3. So the R stands for research, and 1, 2, and 3 are the tiers of research. So always target an R1. So when I went to West Virginia, I think they were ranked 115 out of schools in the US, and in structures they were ranked 17th or something. I don't remember exactly, but it was decent enough. And the advantage of an urban institute is that the state pays for the land is called a land grant institute. So institute doesn't have to worry about institute getting closed.
Yeah.
Most private colleges have the problem that if they don't get enough funds, specifically in India, you might have heard that private colleges closing down civil engineering or mechanical engineering because they don't have enough people, they don't have enough funds. So if you get into a state university, specifically a land grant university in the R1 category, those fears are immediately out of the question. Second advantage of an R1 university is if there are any government projects, first priority is given to the R1 institutes. So the first project that I worked on was preparing three roads in West Virginia, part of West Virginia DOT project. So the roads are made of latex modified concrete, and the actual roads are still there. I in fact drove on one of those to check for the reaction between the de-icing salts and the surface of the road, because there is heavy snowfall and actually civil engineering to high extent is required to repair the top surface of the roads. You might be studying about these in your transportation engineering course in the next semester. Yeah. So that is one thing. Then second project that I got was a Department of Defense project. I'm still under the contract to not disclose all details, but when I taught design of concrete, I think I had told you about the tunnels, about the aftermath of the metro bombings in London and Madrid, why they were taking those measures. So these projects come to R1 institutes only. And faculty members are able to hire research associates of their choice on projects like these. So it matters whether your funding comes from the institute or from the projects. Projects have much more flexibility. Institutes might fund graduate education, but there can always be a question whether they would take someone local or someone foreign, because local students have to pay much lesser fees. So it's a big burden on institutes to cover for out of state tuition fees. Right? It can also happen that institute covers your tuition fees but doesn't pay you a stipend. So it's always better if you get into a project and the professor has the flexibility of choosing to pay you or not. What is the flip side? I faced a problem like that. So during the first year of my PhD, I found out that the DoD funds stopped due to some things which again I cannot say it out loud on the podcast right now. But the aftermath of that was 13 grad students and 3 faculty members lost their jobs overnight. So I had to apply for my own project and I competed for the AC Freeman Fellowship. So the Freeman Fellowship is one of the most prestigious fellowships in the US. Every year only 2 people get it. And in 2012 I was one of the two. And then in 2013 I got the West Virginia University Dissertation Fellowship. That is also very competitive. So, but both were, I would say, partly my credit and a lot of luck involved. So you have to be prepared for the worst as well if you get into a project. If you go through the institute fellowship, you don't have to worry about these things. It will be written on your contract that if they have taken you for graduate education, they would have to fund you till you are there too. Right? So you have to keep these things in mind. So managing your time, managing your finances, definitely. And the other thing is proximity to an international airport. This is the third and most important aspect, because if you are in the US for a lengthy period of time, homesickness is bound to happen. In 5.5 years, I was able to visit home only twice, while my family members visited me twice. So it wasn't that big of a problem. But I know people who have selected institutes which are very interior and no access to airports. Flight tickets are extremely expensive. So it helps if you are near an international airport.
Got it.
So maybe 1.5 hours from an international airport, because the flight tickets are cheaper, and if there is any emergency or just a drive away and
Makes sense. उसके बाद like let's say that I've decided where to go and all. how do I plan ahead? How do I set myself up for success for grad?
So the first thing that you should check out is how many Indians are there basically, and what kind of living community is there. That is very important to plan for your stay there, which actually plays a huge part in your success. So again, to give a personal example, the first house that I stayed in had 4 people
Hmm.
from India, and out of those, 2 were from the same undergrad school that
Oh,
I had studied from. So they basically handled me for the first 3 months, and I didn't even have to worry about where my next meal would come from, or if I had any kind of questions about finances, coursework. I was basically able to rip off their notes to study the difficult courses. So as I said, the coursework actually is very tough. There are assignments every week for each course and huge assignments. So, and each assignment counts towards the final assessment. It's not like the best of plan or what we have here. So that was very difficult. So I got a lot of benefit from finding out where to stay, to which people to stay with, and it helped a lot. So that is one thing. And the career as well as personal guidance that you get from seniors and peers based on their own experiences help a lot. The other thing is mobility, because with your institute ID card, you can get free public transport at a state university, but public transport timings are limited. But if you have to work for longer times, you have to stay beyond office hours. So mobility is very important. So you need people whom you can trust and they can help you move around, because you won't be able to afford a car right away. And you need people who will teach you how to drive a car. So you need someone to sit beside you while you are on your learner's permit. To get the learner's permit itself, you need someone to drive you to the division of motor vehicles, and that itself is a hectic exercise. So you need people you can trust and people who can coach you. And the flip side is, if you stay with not so reliable people, they will send you down the wrong path, and then things will go bad. I know a guy who had joined his masters 2 years before me, and then he completed his masters and he enrolled for PhD, but till date he hasn't got his degree because he got in several situations, and the people that he was roaming around with didn't give him the best advice. So
12 years. More.
yeah, 12 years more, and he doesn't know whether he'll be able to get his degree because he has changed his department thrice and he still hasn't found the right way. So it all depends on the people around you, and if you are able to build a good reputation within the community will help you when things get tough. So that is very important.
So this is one aspect. Like, how do I plan for it? Like, how can I?
Yeah. So the other thing is the specific academics. The first thing that you need to do before you go to the US is look up who is the graduate program coordinator, exchange emails with them, find out what are the core courses, minimum requirements for the degree, whether you want to do a coursework based master's degree or a combination of coursework and thesis. So that depends on the employment opportunities at the present time as well, because a coursework based program, while it's easier for the student, doesn't always paint the student in the best picture, because when the industries come hiring, the first question they ask you, what projects have you worked on, what is the practical application of whatever you have studied, because the textbook to practice jump is a long one. It's very difficult and very different. So that is one thing. But if you go into a research based master's degree, then the difference is you need to focus on both at the same time, passing the courses as well as getting a thesis out of the work you are doing. So the first 6 months are gone just in a flash, because you have to figure out your accommodation, the people you stay with, fooding, etc., plus the coursework, of course. So you basically have a net of 1 year to finish your thesis, because again the last 6 months go for looking for jobs, wrapping up stuff. So how to manage the overlap between coursework and research? And that is the main thing. So the way to plan that is have a good grasp of calendar, see what are the courses that you have to take not only in that semester but the next 2 semesters as well. So you need to make time for at least 8 courses to complete your master's. So whether you do 3 plus 3 plus 2 or 4 plus 4, if you do 4 plus 4, then 1 year you are spending on your coursework. Then can you finish your research in 1 year? So that is something I would not suggest. I think I did 3 plus 3 plus 3. I took one extra course just to further hire the hiring people that I have an extra credit, and it actually helped me when I was going to my PhD. I was able to transfer the extra credit, so I had to do one less course per monkey. That also helps. So again, that is part of the planning and how your graduate program coordinator and your supervisor help you or guide you. It is very important. And also there is the Office of International Students and Scholars. It's either called OISA or it's called International Students Office ISO. Each university has it. Very important to be in touch with your graduate program student representative who will guide you through most of the things which I'm telling you, because they keep changing every 2 to 3 years. The institute policies keep changing. Uh, I didn't know that there are something called special fees to be paid every semester. Oh, even when I had reached the US, I didn't know. Only at the end of the semester, I knew that I found out that I have to pay for the extra fees for the next semester and the upcoming semester, because the institute gives some privileges to the students, like the free rides I told you, free transportation, plus they provide free food on Fridays and weekends. You get other privileges as well, but they come at a cost, and that is included by the European specialties, right? So those things are there. And there's another thing. So you can load and overload your credits. You have to take at least 12 credits every semester, but you can go up to 18 credits. I took 15. How do you choose 15 credits? So you can do 4 proper courses and 1 project type courses. 1 project type book, so that's 4 into 3 plus 3, 15. Or you can do C into C plus 2 project type courses, which is what I did. I know people who have taken, how should I put it? I mean, not professional courses like photography, swimming, tennis, etc., and they have counted towards coursework as well. You need to know how to make life easier for you, and you can only do that by talking to people, reading the bulletin of the institute thoroughly, and you will get a brochure as well, which highlights some of these things. So everything was toward planning for your 4 years. So even before you board the plane, you should have planned out your first year, and then you take things from there. Of course, there will be unforeseen circumstances, but you should be prepared about the ones that you already know. So there are Facebook groups called MS in US, and every year the year-wise groups change. So if you are in your third year first sem, you should join the present MS in US group, and then keep joining the groups afterward so that you know what is going on.
Well, take a quick break. I'll just check the recording. Uh, Alright. Okay, everything's good.
How are we on time?
32 minutes.
Okay. And how are we on covering the questions?
We have done 4 or 5 comments.
But I might have answered some of the questions that.
Yeah, that are coming up later.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are at here is 4. We've done 4. We'll do the quick one now. Okay. Alright. So next question is we covered a bunch of things that the student has to do. What do the committees look for? Like, let's say an application. I mean,
Oh, yeah, very important things. Yes. So, if you plan ahead, you would actually know what to write in your essays. What they look for are two things. How have you written the essay? And what is your academic background till now? So, I know there is a misconception that CGPA is not important. It's the contrary. CGPA is the most important, and the higher the better. There is no upper limit to CGPA. If you have 8.5 plus, that is actually safe, I would say. But 7.5 plus is a minimum because 3 out of 4 is a minimum for US, and they know that some Indian institutes tend to boost up the CGPA, so there are coefficients for each institute. Yeah. So there is a complex equation. So your weighted CGPA will not be the same as your actual CGPA. So higher the better, of course. So coursework is the most important thing. Then about writing the essays, do not trust ChatGPT, do not trust AI, do not trust Wilbert, and do not pay people who write essays on your behalf. Specifically in Hyderabad, I don't know if you know, there are institutes which write essays on your behalf. You are free to consult. You're more than welcome to talk to faculty members who will guide you, but your essay has to be your own. The best essay I have read till now was written by one of your seniors from the 2016 batch. Endorsement. He is working in Walmart now. I'm still working with him on different projects. So he started by writing that Legos are what got him into civil engineering. I have told you this before, I think. So you need to have something personalized on your essay. I remember one person who said that he watched megastructures when he was in his 12th standard, I think, and that got him into civil engineering. So something that ties your personal experience to what you are trying to do for the following years. That is very important. And the last part of your essay should include why is it a symbiotic juxtaposition that the institute hires you and you select the institute. So you should have done enough research about the facilities in the institute, and you should tie it in with some of the projects that you have done here. Specifically, to take your example, you are doing a work on non-destructive tests. You can apply non-destructive testing anywhere. So just a flavor of non-destructive testing in the things that you write in your essay would be good. And how the institute benefits from having you. Since you have that experience, you can join any research group which is working on that. So you can mention the name of one or two professors working with that. And you have to keep in mind that the professors are extremely busy. They cannot read every line that you write. So it's usually a graduate representative who reads the essays. I used to do it for my professor. We are paid to do it. It's not like somebody is slacking off and not putting in the effort that are supposed to be for the essays. So I have read terribly written essays, but I have read directly within one's essay. So as I said, some personal connection. That's what they look for. And the third aspect is how you perform on the competitive entrance exams, the GRE, TOEFL. The TOEFL scores are, of course, very important. TOEFL is what guarantees admission. GRE is what governs whether you get a funding or not. Okay, good. So that is also very important to keep in mind. And the analytical writing score in GRE is one of the deal breaker. So the average score from India is around 3.5 out of 6. I know I got my admission without having written the TOEFL because my analytical writing score was 4.5 out of 6. I had put in enough effort to make sure that I ace the SLH on the analytical writing on the GRE. And while it wasn't perfect, I made sure that when I guide people, they perform even better than me. And I have had 2 cases where people have scored 6 out of 6 on AWA after I poached them. So there's a saying, if you can't do something, teach it. So this is an example of that maybe, but jokes apart, yes. So it's not rocket science. You basically need to know what they are looking for when you are writing. And the length of what you write is very important. So do not write beyond 750 words, is what I would say. Be it the analytical writing or your personal essay and the SOP. That is very important. Now, another thing is how you write. It's called KISS. Keep it short and simple. People have attention spans of, I know, very small maybe 20 to 30 seconds they'll spend on speed reading the first few lines. And if you cannot catch their attention in the first 30 seconds, you cannot catch their attention. It's like watching a good movie.
Yeah.
So one of the examples I gave your seniors for deciding how to write, watch Interstellar, how Nolan sets it up. Within the first 5 minutes of the movie, you know that it's going to be epic. Yeah. Right. So that is how you should approach everything. And for preparing for writing, watch a lot of movies, good movies, the Nolan ones, the Spielberg ones. Reading something written by Shakespeare is not going to help you write essays because that's not what they're looking for. But if you watch something or read something, yeah, so reading something written by Dan Brown might help you uh, get a feel of what American readers go for, because Dan Brown is perhaps the best-selling author in the US right now. I'm not sure. Yeah, could be J.K. Rowling or could be Dan Brown, but that is the example I have. Might be other authors as well, but the way he writes the Robert Langdon novels, you know that he knows how to catch the attention of the reader. So that is what we are looking for. When you're writing something technical, make sure that the last sentence of the first paragraph talks about what is the focus of the passage that someone is reading. That is most important. Be it a journal paper, be it a conference paper, be it your personal essay. The last sentence of the first paragraph matters. And the first paragraph should not have more than 5 sentences. Go. Very short. Very short. Yeah. The first sentence should start with something general. The second sentence should be something personal. And the fifth and last sentence of the first paragraph should summarize what to expect from the rest of the passage. That is how you write.
Very structured format.
Very structured. Yeah.
So, for the application, we talked about the scores and everything.
Yeah.
Two questions actually. SOP, how do you write that? How do you write that well? Or is that the same as the essay that you mentioned?
Yeah, the essay, the personal essay was what I mentioned, the same applies to the SOP, what I instructed.
And second thing, internships, research, how much?
Oh, one more thing you need to, yeah, sorry to interrupt you. One more thing you need to include in the SOP, if you have any kind of social contributions, that is extremely important. That will set you apart from the crowd, because there could be many students who have the exact same profile as you, but if you have some kind of social contribution, it sets you apart from everyone else. I know my profile will always set me apart from people because I have been a member of the Association for India's Development since 2008. For those who don't know, it was established by Dr. Ravi Kuchimanchi. He is a presidential award winner, and the movie Swades is his biopic. Oh, so that's how people can connect with him. So I have been privileged enough to be working with him in close quarters for 17 years now, and that's how I can set my profile apart from my competition. So if you have something like that on your CV, or something as little as what you are doing here, these podcasts, or you said you are part of the FISB team,
Yeah.
those details set your CV apart from other people. So make sure to include extracurricular activities which show that you are into team building, networking, and if possible, something that helps the society.
Good. Those things are.
Yeah.
So internship, research.
Internship research, internships are very useful. So I worked on materials in my internship, but those materials were used for purifying water. But what I ended up working on was materials which are replacing the traditional building materials. So it doesn't matter exactly what you do in your internships, but as long as you do it well, that is something that helps. Another thing you should keep in mind is, do not show 15 projects on your CV. That shows that you don't know what you are doing. Most students that I talk to are doing 15 projects, and I would not hire them. I would rather hire one person who is doing the same project over a number of years. So the best thing that a student can do is start with an informal project on campus with a faculty member, take it as SOP, DOP, LOP sequentially, and then do a thesis from there. And if possible, do an internship with that faculty members, colleagues at some other institute or in the industry.
That would be the perfect.
That would be the perfect thing. Example is Shashank Gupta, your senior from 2017 batch, is currently getting his PhD at Princeton. We have a patent together. We have 9 papers together, and we have one more paper coming up. So that is the best example I can give you, and lot of depth because he did what I told you. I've done the same with 2 other students, Darshan and Ridesh, and that is why I told you and Shriyan to do what you are doing right now, and hopefully the patent that we are applied for will see the light of day. And of course, we already have 3 conference papers, one and 2+1, so we're on the right track. That actually adds value opposed to I had a student from your senior batch, let's not take name. He started with an informal project. We actually have a journal paper, but then he decided to do something else. And then in the following semester, he did stick with that either. So now he has structures, environment, geotech, everything on his CV. So if I were to judge him, I would not hire him for my lab because I know this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Right? So that is something to be mindful of.
So okay, the next question that we have is how do you choose and approach professors for recommendation letters? Which professors to go for? How do you approach them?
Yes, so a very good question. And the first thing you have to keep in mind that some institutes require a minimum of 3 recommendation letters. So you have to choose 3 professors that way. The first and most important person is the head of the department or department chair as they call in the US. I know in which we have the policy of the heads of the department changing regularly. So the person who was in charge for the maximum time during your tenure as an undergrad would be the right person to ask. That would be number one. And the second person would be that who has taught you the maximum number of courses, and preferably you have performed better than average on those courses, if not excelled. That would be ideal. And the third person would be that under whose guidance you have completed the maximum number of projects. So that is the reason that I had advised you in the beginning of your second year, first sem, I think, that you take an informal project with someone, then continue with the same work through SOP, LOP, DOP, and if possible, continue with that through your thesis. Even if you go to an industry for PS, you can still continue to work on that particular topic because it's not just of the lab work or simulations, there is the writing part as well. So if you can get some kind of applications out of it, that actually boosts the quality of the recommendation as well. If you have a publication with someone and they write a recommendation for you, there is already proof that the work you have done together merits getting published. So that really helps a lot. And if you are part of any clubs where faculty representatives are also there, that can be another bonus for your CV as well as the personal essays you write and the letter of recommendation, because the faculty member who has seen you inside the boundaries of academia as well as outside is a much better judge than those who have had limited access to you. True. So that is how you can choose faculty members for recommendation.
Is there an upper limit on how many recommendation letters you should get?
5. So usually university websites say 3 to 5, but you have to keep in mind that people usually apply for 10, 12 institutes sometimes. So not all faculty members will be willing to write that many letters of recommendation. True. It also depends on what type of recommendations they are writing. So for example, in my case, I customize the letter of recommendation depending on the program and the student and the institute. So in that case, if someone is applying for 12 institutes, I have to write 12 letters. But some people prefer writing generic letters. And also, another thing that I would advise you against is going for AI generated letters, which are very common right now. The readers will immediately figure out. There are services in Hyderabad which, in exchange for money, write recommendation letters as well. Some faculty are always busy, so if you provide them with a template, a set template with AI generated text, they're more than happy. But that is something I would advise against.
Yeah, because it can be easily caught.
It can be easily caught, and the personal touch actually matters, because if someone has worked with a particular faculty member, they can write about aspects of the student which AI will not know.
True, true. The context is really
Context is very important, yes.
Sir, then, like after you get the recommendation letter, you do all of that work. How do you identify the right areas of specialization, right area to do research in? How can a student go about that for their masters or graduation?
One is their own interest. So, as we have discussed previously, I told you that I was interested in automobile engineering, but I could not. So, in what way you can use your interests and your skills to do something that you find interesting? So, coincidentally, my research is related to civil engineering, but very remotely. I would say my work is mostly on the chemistry of different waste materials, and then performing some statistical analysis to identify the goodness of fit of the models or whatever. So it's like forcefully fitting it into the sphere of civil engineering. But anyway, so that is something you have to keep in mind. And few of your seniors, I can give examples. Ridesh Tewani from the 2016 batch. He worked with me on modeling the hydration characteristics of different types of blended winder systems. Similar approach he used and designed the aerodynamics of the Formula E car, and they went to Silverstone and tested the car as well. So that is something. Then there was another student, Darshan Chauhan. He did some work on optimization of different parameters which can influence the compressive strength, mechanical properties of cement and concrete. But he ended up using the same concepts for drone delivery routes optimization, and now he's working for Walmart.
Yeah.
So it's not about you restricting yourself to something if you choose a topic. I know many people are sad, for the lack of a better word, that they got into civil engineering. But that is not the case. You can apply any skill to any other field if you know how to. Okay. So figure out one particular aspect of research or academia which you find interesting, and then see in what varied aspects that can be applied.
Got it. So then, once you choose your area, one question is: should you prefer an area or should you prefer a university or professor?
Yes, very important. So the most important thing which I have faced, or I have experienced rather, through my career is the guidance of my supervisors. That is of paramount importance. That would always be number one. If you are going to any institute in the R1 category, they do not differ that much whether it's ranked in the top 5 or the top 150 or top 200. Very little difference in the infrastructure, the research facilities, reputation within the US, specifically because we were talking about the US. Even in the Netherlands or France or UK, the top schools all have minor differences. But what you carry through your academics and beyond is the equation with the supervisors. So that is the primary parameter which should govern your choice. A good research experience has 90% to do with the camaraderie you share with your professor and their lab and the peers there, rather than the actual topic which you are working on. If you work on a topic which is superficially related to what you initially wanted to work on, you can still finish that particular work over the stipulated time and then take it forward and apply the same concepts to something else if you like that work. I know of one of your seniors from 2017, Mukesh Ravichandran. He was one of the best students I have taught at BITS. He had a terrible experience with his supervisor. I think he was in Charlotte at that time. And we used to talk regularly. And instead of completing his PhD, he somehow managed to finish his master's, got a degree, and then he shifted to something else.
Okay.
But he had picked the university because he liked it, and University of North Carolina, Charlotte is one of the most popular institutes in the US. And Chapel Hill is a very good place to live in because of the cosmopolitan population, etc. But those factors all became peripheral when he did not have a good rapport with his supervisor.
Right. So that is very important.
It's very important. Even I was telling you about Shashank Gupta from 2017. Yes. Actually, he was Mukesh's batchmate. So Shashank also has a very difficult time with his supervisor. And while we keep telling him that you are at Princeton, you have to finish your PhD because you have put in so much time and effort. But his supervisor has been making his life very difficult. And he has found a way to deal with it by talking to him regularly, but the initial stage was very difficult and it took a lot of effort on both the supervisor's part and the candidate's part to figure out a way to deal with the scenario. It's not anyone's fault. So basically, you have to also see what is the level of experience of the supervisor too. The supervisor can have amazing research background in number of citations, lot of papers in highly indexed and reputed journals, but over a period of time they develop the experience to deal with students. A great researcher might not always be a great supervisor. True. Yes. So you have to also maybe reach out to other people who have worked with a particular person, get a general idea about their way of handling the supervision of different students. When we how should I put it? When we try to fix the number of students that we can guide at a time, what I have seen from my supervisor, he said that the number is 12. He made some calculations and came up with this idea that 12 is the optimal number of students you should be guiding at a time. If you guide lesser number of students, then you can always devote more time to each and everyone. So that is good. But if you exceed this number from the supervisor's point of view, you are not able to dedicate the bare minimum amount of time you should for that particular student.
Right.
So you should always see how many students that particular supervisor is guiding at that given point in time. And you have to be mentally prepared that you need to do the bulk of the work to be done for that research as well. Okay. So that you can get the best out of it. So you might not always get someone who will work hands on in the laboratory with you or do simulations with you or go on field visits with you. I have learned different aspects of guidance from my supervisors. That is why sometimes I'm hands on, and in the initial phase, that's what I do. And then I figure out that, okay, now these guys are able to do it on their own and I leave them. But not everyone has the same style or the same techniques they follow. So that also,
As far as our experience was concerned, like it was very smooth. Whenever we need any help, you're always there to help us.
that is because I have now spent 11 and a half years in academics just as a teacher, and before that I was an RA for 5.5 years. So I have now 16 years of experience of guiding students. So if we were having this conversation 10 years back, you would have seen a different version of me with lesser experience, and I would not have been able to guide you the way I'm guiding you right now. So that is why I said the supervisor's level of experience is also very important. Right. Expertise and experience do not mean the same thing. Highly skilled person, excellent researcher who is just starting out might need more time to figure out how to guide people. True.
Um, so I want to also ask, like, what are the factors that we should consider while we're picking the institute, like the grad school that we go to, and also the advisor?
The rank, whether it's in R1 category, whether it's R1 in the US or equivalent category in other countries, whether it's a college term that helps. Cosmopolitan population has more acceptance for different demographics. Proximity to an international airport is one of the most important factors that we should consider.
What's that?
Because homesickness is very real. The first 6 months you spend with new people, friends, that goes in a breeze. But once you get settled down and you realize that you are so far away from home, if you are in an interior location, say it takes 5 hours to go to the airport, you won't even feel like doing that. So pick a place which is within 1.5 to 2 hours of driving distance from a big international airport. And if that is the case, it also means that there is a greater cosmopolitan community there. So it's a greater chance of having more Indians there. And that, of course, helps. Yeah. That being said, I have been blessed with very good American friends as well. So I think it's the person who matters, not the country of residence, but the proximity to airport definitely matters. Another thing is the healthcare policy at that place. So once you get admission, you are not guaranteed for a healthcare plan. Once you get some kind of off-campus job or on-campus job, depending on the grade of pay, you get some kind of health benefits. Okay. The assistantships guarantee proper health benefits with some deductible amount. You need to know how much is the deductible, because that's the minimum amount you have to pay for your checkups that you do. But if you have an on-campus, if you have an off-campus job, it doesn't guarantee full health benefits. Might be only partial. So you need to be fully aware of whatever plans are existing. True. And some people now buy temporary period healthcare plans beforehand. Okay. While they're traveling. So that is also an aspect to explore. But these are the most important factors. Another thing is the crime rate. Yeah. So I was talking about UIUC, which is in the top 5 institutes in the world, I think. But UIUC is very closely located to Gary, Indiana, the birthplace of Michael Jackson, which has one of the, I think it's number 1 or 2. It's within the top 2 in terms of crime rate in the US. Okay, wow. And after 7 p.m., even cops don't want to take a risk of going there. And I know people who have ventured with their cars and had terrible experiences. Right. That was even during the Obama administration, which was one of the most peaceful and well administered tenures in politics. But given the recent developments, I don't know how things will turn. So we have to wait and see, of course. Yes, sir. But safety is very important. Yeah. So crime rate is also something that we should look for. Yes, another aspect is the amount of pay, as I was saying, that pay scale. So that also varies from state to state, specifically in the US. In the European countries or in UK, it's more standardized. Even in Australia, New Zealand, it's more standardized. But in the US, the stipend or the scholarship funds vary from state to state depending on the economic condition of the state. There is, of course, a minimum pay. Yeah. But some people prefer to just go for minimum pay and don't pay as much as they're supposed to be paid based on an hourly basis. So that also matters. So how can you figure that out? Like the minimum pay you can check online, or the hourly pay you can check online. But the cost of living in different states are different. So there is always a list from US Weekly magazine. You can check what is the current economic status of that particular state where this university is located, and then you can make a call. So the professor would tell you beforehand how much they pay. Right. So you can recheck the cost of living and talk to people. As I was saying that there are Facebook groups, MS in US for every year. Every fall they have a new group. So you can ask these questions pertinent to that current academic or financial year, and you'll get the answers. Got it. So this was for the university. What about the advisor? Like what all? Like I think you mentioned some of the things. Advisor is the experience of the advisor. So I would pick someone who is on the younger spectrum of academia, because older professors tend to have multiple projects. They are extremely busy, and it's usually the postdoc researchers working with them who spend more time with the researchers, whether it's PhD or ME or undergrad, because the professors themselves are busy with too many administrative activities. It's very difficult for them. Now I am able to get a flavor of that as my responsibilities increase. So I would pick someone who is within their first 10 years of academia, I would say. Yes, sir. And sir, like what is the best way to find the right research advisors as well? Just go and read their profiles, or go and read their profiles, send them informal emails with their approach. You would approach or response you would figure out. For example, Professor Kain that we spoke with, He's very experienced, but he was immediately responding to mails that you sent. So what I said should not be generalized, because there are exceptions like him. There are exceptions like my supervisor. He makes it a point to respond to emails as soon as possible. Because he says that if someone has taken the time and effort to send you an email, you should reciprocate. And that is why he is very well known in the research community for these sort of things. But these are exceptions. Most people tend to slack on responding. Sometimes they're so busy that they don't even realize some of the emails go to their spam folders, they won't check it.
Right.
So, or they would delegate the work to their grad students. I have done it for my supervisor's supervisor, but he was so busy that I have checked emails on his behalf at times. But these are quite common practices. So you have to talk to people in the lab, previous people or existing people, and figure out what is the level of involvement of the faculty member to the research that they're doing.
Right, sir. Those are important things to look out for, in fact. So what about the best way to approach the faculty or professor that you want?
Informal emails. Informal emails with pertinent information, not humongous texts that Indians usually write. Keep it short and simple. That's the motto. And when you put information, put personalized information. Don't use ChatGPT or DeepSeek or anything. Personal information relevant to the work that they are doing, and personal information related to the work that you want to do given what you have already done.
Right.
That is very important, because your experience and how it can benefit that supervisor or that professor's ongoing work, and how it can benefit you as well.
Yes, sir. That is all have to be taken care of. So mutually beneficial.
Absolutely.
Okay. So one more thing is, let's say I am a first or second year right now, and I want to start building research experience skills. How do you start building that? In bits, maybe outside also.
Read a lot, I would say, and stay up to date with current affairs, see what are the needs of the industry and academia. You have to keep in mind that research in other countries dominates what is going on in academia. It's a research driven environment, while in India it's the opposite.
Yeah.
We are doing run of the mill stuff regularly, and there's hardly any scope for research. Research which is out of the box. So that mindset has to be broken first.
You have to do some out of the box work.
Yeah, so reading which invokes thinking, that is very important. And watch documentaries related to recent research. There are movies being made which talk about some kind of futuristic concepts which are there, movies, TV shows, so maybe keep tabs on them. Talk to supervisors in your present institute who might have a lot of ideas but do not have the resources or the time or the workforce to execute that. So future scope of research based on what they are doing at present. Talk to the ME students and PhD students in the various labs. So these are all important things that you have to keep in mind.
So those would be, I think, the way to pick the direction. I was asking more about like the like hard skills that you can learn, that you want to get. Like if let's say you want to get into research as a undergrad, like what is the best way to go about that?
When you talk to the professors, they would start by telling you what they're working on.
Yeah.
And immediately you will get a feel of whether that is interesting for you or not. So talk to as many professors as possible, even outside your department or even outside your institute, and see if there is some idea you have which they can nurture.
Right. Okay.
You will always have ideas. Everyone has ideas. How applicable or how executable those are is a matter of resources and workforce, of course, and time. But if you find someone who is willing to run an idea with you and nurture it, that is the starting point. And then, of course, you have to read more. You cannot expect that you would give an idea out in the open and someone else will do it for you. That is something. And other thing would be to figure out what resources are present on campus or nearby institutes which you can explore to get at least some kind of initial data, proof of concept, like you did for your crack propagation thing. I had no idea of what to do, but I knew that there are non-destructive testing equipment available. Yeah. So we did some initial tests, right? Whatever findings you have, even if you feel those are failures, they're not actually failures. They're just telling you what not to do. That means you are getting closer to what to do by the process of elimination. Yes, sir. So that is something. And also some people have preconceived notions. So you have to unlearn those to learn more things and listen more. That is important. And main thing is to utilize the resources available on campus and in the institutes close by. There are a lot of student activities in different IITs, IIScs, student symposia, workshops, which invite participation from all institutes across the country. So those are some things that people can attend and get a lot of ideas. If you remember, I keep telling you attend as many conferences as possible, send out even review papers if required. That is for networking, which is the most important thing for you. The second thing is to find out what other people are doing. Yes, that will give you some idea.
True. Those all. So, I mean, even for us, like we approached you with the idea and you were able to shape it and nurture it for us. And then that finding the right person in your institute is.
Yeah, that's finding the right people. So that is why you need to know more people so that you know what they're working on and how to approach them,
Makes sense.
whether to approach them or not. Yes.
These are the like hard skills and approaches. What are some soft skills that we can?
Yeah, soft skills, two aspects. One is technical writing and the other one is presentations.
Yes, sir.
And for presentations, both making the slides and speaking. So about the technical writing, I know we have a course, but we are in the process of revamping it because the present technical writings course that we have do not imbibe the kind of skills I would want in undergrad students. It could be because there are too many students, the faculty do not have the option of one-on-one tutoring. So writing a technical document, starting with a broad sentence describing what you want to do, then a couple of sentences on what is going on in different countries in the world relevant to that, and then the fourth and the fifth sentence of the first paragraph driving home the point which is the focus of your present document. It applies to any kind of document, like be it a paper or a conference article or a poster or a report, anything. So the first five sentences are the key. If you can get the attention of the person within the five sentences, they'll be hooked and they'll be reading the whole document. Otherwise, not, because no one has time these days and no one has attention. Skim through documents, right?
Correct.
And people usually go to the conclusion and the end of it. So you also don't want to make the document too big, 500 to 750 words, not more. Include the skills that you have where the reader can benefit from working with you and vice versa too. That is important. So that brings us to preparing the slides when you present something to someone based on a written document or a fresh concept that you have. Again, catching the attention of the person. So white background, black text, no animation. But that is the best thing to do. If you have more animation, it says that you are not confident about what you are talking. Yes. And if you have a lot of text, it shows that you did not pay attention to what you were studying.
Yes, sir.
Because you need that text to fall back on to read from the screen. If you are facing the screen, your back is facing the audience. That puts them off immediately. The lesser you glance, the better. Always keep flashcards or printed slide notes in your hand. That shows that you are prepared.
Okay.
Maybe you will never glance at those, but it shows that you are prepared.
Yes, sir.
But if you have those amount of text on the slides you are presenting, it gives the different picture. On each slides, maximum 5 bullet points, proper references, including the hyperlinks, last date of access, and each bullet point should not have more than 5 to 7 words.
Right.
Not full sentences. As you know, a gerund is a part of a sentence which in itself talks about an idea, so it should be that. That's how you go about it.
The crux of the whole thing.
Yes.
All right, sir.
and more pictures.
More pictures.
Picture says 1,000 words, so that is what you have to apply.
Got it. And I think I've seen that in your presentations as well. Like when you were guiding us, you had like a set presentation.
Yeah, so if you write more text, this is insider info. The reader who is possibly doing something on his mobile will just skim through some text, and whatever words you have written, you will get asked questions just by catching a keyword that might not even be relevant to what you were talking about, but you used it because you were not careful about what you were writing.
Okay.
You might have asked ChatGPT to prepare a slideshow, because now that is what people are doing. I've seen my own students is doing it.
It's too easy, right? Yeah. Okay. Got it. So one more thing is another aspect is whether it's very important is funding, and how can students get funds for their research or like scholarships, grants, whatever, assistantships.
Yeah, so there are 4 types of on-campus assistantships other than the off-campus jobs that we have. Off-campus jobs are same almost in every country. You fill out your CV, your basic information on the university career portal, and they'll reach out to you. Also, there's an interview and a training period. So that all is there. As I told you before, that I interned for a pizza company, survivors for a day, and then I did a TA for bio department for 6 months. And I actually had to learn bio, as I was saying, 110 students in each lab. That was difficult. So that is there, but the main thing is the on-campus opportunities. Keeping in mind that if you get an opportunity before you go, that's the best case, the ideal case. And from the Indian point of view, that is the driving factor, because my mom wouldn't have let me go to the US if I didn't have a funding.
Yes, sir.
But that being said, you can always take a nominal loan from a bank.
Yes, sir.
And you can build up and save enough money to repay it. So coming to the 4 different types of assistantships, you have RA and TA, research assistantship, and teaching assistantship, which are the most common, almost everyone knows. But other than that, you have GA, graduate assistantship, and AA, administrative assistantship. So these are things which are outside the boundaries of the department itself, but within the institute.
Yes, sir.
So a graduate assistant can be asked to work on any kind of institute activity, events, volunteering for orientations, doing some work for some other departments, maybe being a student counselor for freshmen or sophomores. I have done all of these, and these are things that you have to do so that you can build up your own confidence as well, plus your networking.
Yes, sir.
And the administrative assistantship is to do with specifically administrative work. A lot of paperwork, but the grade of pay is same for all of these.
Yes.
Of course, time management is the key, because you will have to finish your coursework, you have to work on your assignments. And while you are doing a GA or an AA, you still have to do some research with your supervisor.
Okay.
So you have to keep time for that as well.
So a lot of things. So your coursework, assignments, your
So try to stay ahead of the game by finishing your work 3 to 5 days ahead of the deadline, so that they never pile up. We have to get out of the mentality of extensions and last minute submissions. It's very important, and keep in mind that there will be evaluative components every week, and there is no concept of best of 5, best of 8. We are spoiled here at BITS, right? We don't have all of that there. So that is something to be watchful of, and you can multitask, you can plan your things accordingly. If you have study groups, you can always distribute the work. If there are 3 problems on an assignment in a study group, you can distribute who will be solving problems 1, 2, and 3. So you can do all of that, and you can save time by doing that. And for the administrative assistantship specifically, you have to do lot of research about how the different things of the institute work.
Okay.
That actually will also help you to understand the inner workings of the institute. So not everyone is privileged enough to get those. Very few people they select.
Right.
It's the Office of International Students and Scholars, OISS, which actually decides or selects the suitable candidates. So the competition there is actually lesser because people think that they are not good enough for it, but that actually increases the chances of getting selected.
It's a very reverse psychology.
That's a reverse psychology because it's actually difficult to get. And the RA and TA depend on the supervisor and the department respectively. If the supervisor has project money, you'll get an RA. The flip side is that if the supervisor doesn't like something you are doing, they'll throw you up. That is also there. Unless you have signed up for a PhD and they have signed a bound contract that they have to pay you till the end of your tenure.
Okay.
Which I didn't have. That's why I lost my funding and I had to get my own. So that now leads us to how you can get your own funding if required. There are fellowships from different societies. So I got the AC Freeman as I was telling you, but it's a lot of luck involved because 2 people in the US get it every year.
Yes, sir.
So in 2012, I was one of 2. So that was kind of and amazing and surprising as well. I had no idea that it is possible, but my supervisors at that time said that if you don't apply, you won't get it for sure. Why don't you apply? And when you are applying for it, make sure that you write something which can change the current trend of research. And I submitted that proposal in 2012, and in 2024, I had a patent on that technology. So if you keep at it, so you are asking me how to choose a path for research. It's just that you have to choose something and keep at it. If you leave it midway, it won't work out.
Persistence.
Persistence is the key. That is one thing. And the other thing is institute-based scholarships.
Yes, sir.
So every institute has scholarships for their thesis students.
Yes, sir.
So that is something you can get. And if someone is a citizenship, someone has a citizenship of a particular country, they can also get other types of scholarship for it.
Oh.
That might not be applicable for most of the students, but I know many bit students who are citizens of US or UK. So for them, they have that avenue as well.
Correct.
There are president scholarships in the US. There are other scholarships I know in the UK and other countries in Europe. So that is something they can explore.
Got it. Lot of opportunities, then.
Yes, and another thing specifically in the European countries, there are no tuition fees. But because there are no tuition fees, the opportunity for extra funding is also lesser.
Right.
So it's more to do about off-campus jobs in those cases rather than these scholarships that we are talking about.
So US, you can get scholarship grants, funds more.
Because the tuition fees are higher and they don't have free education there.
Right.
And out-of-state tuition fees, which apply for most students, are almost 2.5 times the in-state tuition fees.
Right.
So locals pay much lesser. It's easier for the institute to give them tuition waivers.
Right.
Rather than the foreign scholars they are employing. So those economics have to be kept in mind while selecting a particular country as well.
Right. I think that's very smart, sir. Apart from that, what are more of the financial realities of a grad school and how can students prepare for that?
Yeah, so as I was saying earlier, you need to know the cost of living at that particular location, and you also would need to get some idea of how much money you have spent or invested in the beginning, because when you go to a foreign country, you need to pay for your own housing, and the first investment is 2 months worth of rent.
Yes.
Rent for the first month and security deposit for the last month of the year. So you have to be watchful of those, and the institute doesn't start paying you till the 46th day. So for first 45 days, you need to have enough in your bank. You have to show your bank statement.
Yes, sir.
You won't get a visa before that. So you actually need a bank statement notarized by the, I forgot to tell you this the other day, you need a notarized bank document so that you can show that you have enough money to sustain the first 45 years. And your employment letter will say that funding, if any, will not start till the 46th day.
Yes.
It's written explicitly. So that is there. Then there are the special fees for each institute because they provide you facilities like public transport, food over the weekends, access to movie theaters at 50% discount, free library access, free interlibrary access, that is shared library with other institutes. So there are other things as well. So these are things that you have to keep in mind. And I know people who have led very lavish lifestyles while looking at others in the US.
To be conservative.
We have to be slightly on the conservative side, not conservative but judicious.
Judicious.
And you have income tax filing, you get a decent amount of income tax return. So if you are judicious in the beginning, you will have enough at the end of the financial year to get something for yourself which you wanted.
Amazing. Yeah.
So planning is very important, and talking to seniors who have gone through the system, who know the tricks of the trade.
Yes. So some people in your, do they have to be Indian, or anyone, like even American students would have the same advice for you?
Slightly different, I guess, because as I said, they have lesser tuition fees to pay, or they have lesser bank loans. Some of them have a lot of bank loans, so you cannot generalize. But the Indians would be able to give you a better idea because of the similarity in lifestyles.
True. So what about gap year and experience, or like all of those things?
Yeah, gap year actually doesn't matter if you are using the gap year for something constructive. So I had a junior come neighbor. He was a captain of the kayaking team. He finished his 4-year degree in 8 years because the institute was telling him to go and participate in all sorts of competitions. And as I was telling you that I was blessed to see 5 Olympians. Yes. So Virginia Thrasher, as I told you, 2-time gold medalist in 2012 and 16. So institute was always telling her, you go and focus on that because it actually raises the profile of the institute as well.
Yes, sir.
And then those two girls from Canada who represented in the Women's Football World Cup.
Yes, sir.
So when they were taking their coursework, same thing. They were given free hand to focus on football, and then whenever they had time to do the work on academics. These are all American and Canadian students, but for foreign students, I know of the two Italian archers who won the bronze medals. I was telling you,
Yes, sir.
Federico Giampolo, and forgot the name of the other guy. So they were having similar policies as Indian students.
Yeah.
But still, because they were representing Italy, but West Virginia University, they were told that you are free to work on your sports, and the institute will make sure that your grades are taken care of.
I mean, that is very supportive. So what does like a typical day look like in life as a grad student?
It depends on the coursework and the climate. So on the East Coast, there's a lot of snowfall during the winter, and the hours change slightly, but typically from 8 o'clock the classes start. Yes, and they'll go until 5:30. And if you take outside the department classes, those would be from around 6 to 7. Also, I had a statistics course. I had to take a um, local metro to go from one part of the campus to another. It was a 15 to 20 minute travel time plus walking, so around half an hour, 40 minutes. I had taken the class in that way so that I had enough time to travel, and the evening classes have lesser number of students, so the faculty are able to devote more time as well. That was another thing. So by 7 o'clock, 7:30 max, you would be done with coursework, and there would of course be gaps in between which you can utilize for your assignments, your research. You need to have some time for exercise, athletics, some kind of sports, relaxation, and then some amount of time for the TA or RA or those things. So I usually used to do that over the weekends.
Okay. The weekend is the best time for that. So, but I think I remember you telling me that a lot of nights would go in labs, and that is not the.
Oh yes, of course. So yeah, when you're working on something experimental, so as you correctly mentioned, that my data monitoring would be over by 3:30 a.m. and I used to work back after that. At that time, it was a very safe environment and never faced any problem, honestly. I don't know what is the scenario now. But yes, so if you start an experiment, you are not uh, really monitoring the data for all the 24 hours. You just have to go at the preset intervals as per the codes. So the time in between you can use for other activities. And I would start the experiment in such a way that it got over at 3:30 a.m. because it gave me time the previous evening to take a nap, play sports, have my dinner, and then come to the lab.
Okay.
And during that time, say from 12 a.m. to 3:30 a.m., I got a lot of work done because there was no disturbance.
Correct.
During the daytime, there would always be people, students, faculty members doing something, giving some work. There would be work related to the different associations. The administrative work also was there to some extent. So, how you manage your time is entirely up to you, but getting enough hours of good sleep is important as well, just from the health point of view. And the other thing would be to devote some time for cooking your own food.
Yes, sir. That is very important.
That is very important. Is cheap food from McDonald's and Burger King and all those things are terrible for health. And another thing which we discussed is to learn driving. So that is something I devoted a lot of time on. And the more you drive, better practice you get because it will be a mandate for your laboratory work as well as for any kind of future employment.
That you need to know how to do.
You need to know how to drive because there is such lack of public transport, specifically in the semi-urban areas.
Got it. That is something I did not get to hear about before, actually, that driving is so important.
It is. I used to drive to pick up materials for my lab, for my research. So it is that important.
Got it. So you talked a little bit about the physical health. I think what about the mental health, emotional health during a grad?
Yeah, very important because, as I said, first 6 months are a breeze, but then you start to feel the kick of reality.
Yes, sir.
That you are so far away from home. If something goes wrong, there's no one to take care of you the way family would. So it's always important to surround yourself with extremely helpful people. As I was saying, I'm blessed with the kind of supervisors I've had. You're still in regular touch, and also the kind of friends that you make.
Yeah.
So if you ever feel that something is bogging you down and you talk to people who had similar experience, they'll be able to tell you how to get out of that.
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, you have to do it on your own, but at least you will get good ideas.
Right, sir.
And it really helps if there are people who have had similar experiences who can coach you through the difficult part, not to give up when things feel difficult. So, to keep the mental side of things stable or conducive, it's always better to devote some time for doing activities outside of academics.
Yes, sir. So like sports or anything else.
Sports, photography, taking guitar lessons. Maybe I saw a lot of people getting into music or going on hiking trails, skiing trips, driving. Maybe, as I was telling you, I got associated with the Association for India's Development.
Yes, sir. So that has been very helpful as well.
Yeah, that has been very helpful. I don't know if it got recorded in the previous conversation.
I think it was towards the end, so I think
Yeah,
would have
for,
got so.
for those who are maybe not aware, it was developed by Dr. Ravi Kuchimanchi. He's a presidential award winner.
Yes, sir.
And to give a public connection, the movie Swades is loosely based on his life. So I have been fortunate that for more than 15 years now, I have been connected to that uh, organization, and through that I've been also privileged enough to get in touch with people from different countries, different backgrounds, different activities on campus which I would have not otherwise been involved in. So that has been really helpful.
Uh, so what are some misconceptions about grad school that are
Yeah.
very common?
That grad school is very easy. It's very easy to get grades. It's not. It's very difficult actually, specifically because you are taking care of not just academics but your own life outside academics as well, your own food, your accommodation, your mental side of things, as you mentioned, your health, your lifestyle in general, time management. You are in charge of everything.
Yes, sir.
And there is no one to blame if anything goes wrong, right? You are responsible for everything related to your uh, general life. So it's very important to keep a good timetable. You might not always be able to adhere to that, but as much as possible, you can maintain, and to give yourself enough breaks in between.
Breaks are important.
Very important.
So, but like, how does that work? Like, when you take breaks?
So let's say you have a long weekend, you plan ahead so that whatever assignments come up after the long weekend, you finish them well in advance so that the long weekend is fully devoted to you not doing anything.
Right.
Because you need to recharge your batteries. And
100%.
that is also tied to the previous question you asked, how to keep the mental side of things stable and healthy. If you give yourself a good break, your mind is fresh to tackle something new.
Yes, sir. 100%. So, I mean, time management can also influence your mental well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Got it. So, any other misconceptions? Like, these were more of the academic side.
Misconceptions, yes. One more thing is that the actual GPA. People have a misconception that Indian students, being extremely meritorious and brilliant, can do wonders and get 4.0 out of 4.0 GPA, but that's not how it works because the grading system is different.
Yes, sir.
So it's also tied to the time management and assignments. I'll tell you why. The minimum passing marks for a course is 70 out of 100.
Yes, sir.
And that is not a matter of joke. At BITS, you get 8 out of 100, so you can still pass a course.
Yes, sir.
But in the US specifically, it doesn't work like that. And to get 70 out of 100, you have to put in enough effort, and you can get 4 out of 4 in each course by scoring maybe more than 90 out of 100.
Wow.
So the jump from 70 to 90 itself will take a lot of effort.
100%.
So if you put in enough time and enough effort beforehand and not slack, so don't ask for expectations, don't take deadlines. If you don't take deadlines seriously, you will be in trouble. And another misconception I have seen is the lifestyle in general. People think that it's all what we see about to the US in movies, and the lifestyle from Hollywood, LA, or New York, or Chicago, the big cities, but that is not the real picture. The real US is the college town population or the semi-urban population, the working force.
Yes, sir.
They are quite similar to what we have here. Maybe the language is different or the demographics are different. Some habits and cultures are different, but what we see in movies or books are not the real picture.
It's much more different there.
It's much more different there. So we have to be aware of the fact that we are in a foreign place, whether it's US or UK or any other country, and we have to be adaptive to their lifestyle as well and make sure that we are representing our country in such a way that they are also open to accepting us. It's a two-way street.
We have
I
to change it.
We have to also change ourselves. I know people who have seen what lifestyle is in the movies and try to emulate those and then end up with terrible grades because they completely lost themselves. And from the financial point of view as well, if you get into that, I don't know, catastrophe may be the right word because of what I've seen. But if you get into that chakra, it's very difficult to come out of.
Yes, sir. So, one more thing that I think a lot of people think about, and I think I've heard from you, is a lot of people think, okay, you'll only interact with most Indians there. You won't.
No, I would definitely say that make friends from people with as many countries as possible, because it not only paints your country in a good picture that you are open and adaptive to others, but also you get to know how other people live, what kind of problems they are tackling in society. Maybe by talking to someone from Lebanon, you will get a research idea, which you won't get by staying here, right? Just by sticking within the Indian diaspora. So it's very important. And I can vouch for the fact that I have more American friends than Indian friends. I have better American friends than Indian friends. Right?
Still talk to them, sir.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
So anything you wish you knew before getting into grad school, personally?
Yeah, the financial thing which I was saying, I did not know about all the expected expenses,
Yes, sir.
like the special fees and the extra rent and all those
Yes.
things. I did not know. I did not know about the driving license thing as well.
Right. Yeah.
So your Indian license is good for 90 days as an international driving permit, but that also in particular states, not all states.
Okay.
So that is something very important which I learned there. Another thing about the campus life I should have mentioned earlier, there is something called a career fair. So a career fair actually opens the door for job opportunities, but when I got selected for company in 2009, initially they didn't ask, and maybe I didn't tell them that I was a foreign student. So we didn't talk about the visa scenario.
Correct. Yeah.
So there is something called DS-19 extension of stay,
Sir.
which allows you to stay beyond the date on your visa as long as you are able to find some alternative within that time. I didn't know that. And when that company said that we are not able to fund or not able to sponsor the visa for an international student, I converted my master's to my PhD.
Right.
And even at the end of my PhD, when my tenure was over, I saw that my visa expired and I came back to India. But maybe I could have filed for an extension of stay, spent 6 months, tried to get some kind of postdoc,
Yes.
academic or industrial experience. That would have helped me now, actually.
Yes.
But I didn't do that. So these are things, if I had known, hindsight is 2020, right? These are things, if I had known, I would have done things differently. But
now you're sharing.
now I'm sharing with you, yes, because I learned it. Another thing is the amount of money that you save up.
Yes, sir.
So if you remember, we were saying that whether we should be conservative or judicious, that helps because you never know what kind of unforeseen circumstances might pile up.
100%.
COVID, for example.
Yes, sir.
Several of my friends had to come home. So if enough money hadn't been saved up and they had been laid off, they wouldn't have had a cushion to come and settle down here. That is very, very, very important.
So anything you can do during your undergraduate years to prepare for the best graduate experience, grad school?
That is a very good question. Yes, there are a couple of things you can do. Focus slightly on things outside academics. Get into some of the clubs, because when you write your personal essay as well, your demeanor and your ability to work as a team will be reflected through these things. Whether you have a POR on paper doesn't matter, because they don't know what is the POI, position of responsibility, all those things. But if you can show some activities that you have coordinated or actively participated, yes, that is very important. That is one thing. And the other thing is your perception by your peers, students and faculty both. Yes. Because the faculty will write your letters of recommendation, and the faculty's perception can also be slightly influenced by your peers. So if someone says that yes, we know, but then he is one of the most humble and friendliest people that we have interacted with, that immediately plays a very big part in a very good letter of recommendation being written for you. So that is very important. It's not about attending each and every class. It's not about scoring 100 out of 100 in every course, but it's about how you portray yourself as a member of the campus community.
So participating clubs and activities that actually demonstrate how you can work in groups.
Yes, and sometimes we get uh, students, as in my part of the disciplinary committee, some students inadvertently get caught up in situations that they can rather avoid. So avoid those. If you ever get a question whether I should get involved in this or not, it's probably better to avoid that.
Okay.
And I had people with 8 plus GPA getting caught up in disciplinary cases, and I end up asking them, if this is your GPA, I'm sure that you are not actively doing that, because GPA is directly related to discipline for sure. people who are not engaged enough in academics find time for other nonsense on missions. So then they try to explain that they were coincidentally there, or it was a one off, or it was their last fest on campus or something. So, but again, you are in charge of your own existence on campus. So
You should control your actions.
you should monitor your action.
Monitor your
Control is too harsh, maybe.
Yeah.
Because you are still young and sometimes you cannot control your impulses. But the moment you find something questionable, it's better to stay up.
It would be very unfair. I mean, not getting into disciplinary committee chair view may probably will help you. So last question. Any parting advice? Anything that we haven't talked about? Anything that you wish should have covered? Something like that. Any parting advice?
I think the time management thing that we were discussing, so that is, I think, the most important advice I can give you. While we joke about the extensions on deadlines and all those things, it's not just about that. It's about also finding time to do things that you like.
Yes, sir.
So devote enough time to your academics without going overboard so that you have enough time. For example, this podcast that we are able to have today, because you and I both planned other activities accordingly so that we could find out time for a tray. So this is a clear example of us managing activities. You have your assignments, I have my administrative responsibilities. And since today is a holiday and we're not burdened with other stuff, if we're able to do it. And after the discussion is over, we'll still have the rest of the day for other things. So this is a very good example of the bigger picture. Do you think this is a microcosm of what the bigger picture is and how you utilize the free time?
Very true. Yeah.
So one thing maybe I missed out when we were talking about the preparation part of going abroad, learning about their culture.
Yes, sir.
So when you are preparing for the exams, the entrance exams, GRE or TOEFL or GMAT or whatever, try to read books and try to watch movies which depict a true picture of their cultural scenario, not the masala ones for the lack of a better thing. So that is very important to utilize your time in a way that gives you a real picture of what is going on. Maybe another thing, as an advice, I can say the daily shows with Trevor Noah or Stephen Colbert or John Oliver, these are the three that I would say they provide a much realistic scenario than compared to the Hollywoody ones like Jimmy Fallon or Jimmy Kimmel.
Good.
So that in itself should give you an idea of what to expect and what not to.
What is going on?
What is going on. So this should help you to identify some of the more realistic aspects of your own life, even on campus, that you should pay attention.
Good. All of those things you have to take care of.
All of those things you have to take care of. And yeah, the last thing that I would say is you are the captain of your own ship.
Yes.
So you have to take care of everything.
Ryan was a perfect ending, I think. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know the last recording didn't work out.
Oh, yes. So hopefully we covered more things today.
Yeah, I mean this segment was longer than the last one, so I think we were
Hopefully it was more informative.
yeah. Okay, thank you so much, sir.